Hi friends, this is Butch at Sand Hollow Homestead in Sand Hollow, Idaho. Now, we just picked 35 pounds of blackberries in our blackberry row last night. This was about the third picking, and but this was the big one. We really had a massive harvest this time. And there's more out there, but what I'm seeing is this extreme heat, when it gets over 100 degrees, you're going to get what I call woody blackberries. They're not as robust and soft and nice as what our first choice is. So I'm taking first choice, putting them into this. The ones that are woody go into that. They all get washed. Then I put it in Barton's spinner, and the spinner works really good. Once you've spinned it down real good, then I'm putting it on these Harvest Right trays with parchment paper, and I'll fill all 4 trays with the blackberries. And then we'll go ahead and freeze dry them. And Betty on Facebook recommends 12 hours freezing and 14 hours drying. And we'll try that, and then we'll test it, see how it goes. But 35 pounds is a lot of blackberries. And of course, this one here, this is a giant bowl. And these seem to be like #1 choice. Most of these were in an area that just did wonderful. If they're clustered up, they tend to struggle. The plant tends to struggle to grow. If there's too many, it's just like apples or any fruit. You've got to thin it down if you want quality. And I did not do that. I had other irons in the fire. So now I get to work on freeze drying them. As you can see, there's a lot of debris in the blackberries because I had weeds, and the weeds were not maintained. And I've been wanting to do that all year, but I keep finding projects that get in the way. So it's very tedious to pull these out and get them clean and then go through the process. But 35 pounds, I got to get going. Well, I got all 4 trays filled. Now all 4 trays are in the freezer. All I have to do is put my pad in there and then start the process. Or I obviously shut the door and seal it. Well, the door is locked, ready to go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to customize I want the freezer "12 minutes and 14, and that's according to Betty. And we will say done. And now I've got something else I have to check. But first of all, please close drain. drain is closed. The other thing that I've learned is come over here, turn the pump on. That's what I did wrong the first time. I know the computer's running. I've got my little towel over the breather. My oil level is good. Can't hardly see it, but it's good. And then I come over here and I hit continue, and it's freezing. Oh, I thought I could hit the clock and it would tell me more information, but maybe it doesn't do it until later. But so it's 12 hours of freezing, which means I just got done doing my dishes in the dishwasher, and I'll let it do its thing. What I found was it took 12 hours of freezing and about 17 hours of drying. Now I did that because I had put the blackberries so heavy in here. Right now they're kind of messed up, but they were stuck together a lot. So I probably was a little aggressive and put too much on there at one time, and probably could have cut the time back had I have not put so much on. But I am labeling it, and this one's already sealed, and my freeze dryer is defrosting. I've got the sealer set up, and I'm putting in the oxygen absorbers, and I am documenting the information on it. One of the things that I need to do better is to document when I started, and you know, and what the settings were, and any changes that I made. And I have not weighed any product prior to being put in, and then after, you know, pulling it out. I'm just learning the machine more than anything, but this is dried well, and I did put it in for extra hours, and then I just checked it and everything was dry. Or had I have not checked it, I might have run it another 2 hours, but this was good enough. So from Sand Hollow Homestead, I think we're making some progress here, and listening to Betty on Facebook on her Harvest Right freeze dryer group, gonna learn some stuff, aren't I? Okay, the finished product, all dated and got the time of freeze and dry, and looks pretty good for me. And I'm learning as I go. Talk to you later. Hello friends, this is my next batch. Green beans, about 3.5 trays. And then I've done some strawberries, and there are some nice big strawberries. No, they're not from my box. My box for some reason has been doing so good, and I haven't put the cover over it, so I think the birds have gotten pretty much everything. And this is the time of year where these berries are not producing. So they will be producing probably later this year as the weather cools down. And I've seen a few flowers, but not a lot. So these are nice green beans that I picked out in the garden. And so I'm going to freeze dry them and check it out. Talk to you later. Squash, 1/4 inch thick. I'm going to put that in my solar dehydrator outside. And while it's drying, I'll continue to use the freeze dryer on the inside. I'm trying to maximize all the equipment that I have as much as possible to preserve this rapid harvest of squash. Now, as you remember, if you've been watching my videos, the squash that I had planted for my friends and relatives, they didn't end up using them, so I ended up planting them in my garden. I have a 65-foot long vertical fence, so I planted the summer squash and the winter squash along this 65-foot fence on both sides. They're cattle panels, okay, I call it fence. And I do that every year. That's how I do my climbing vines. But I also put my summer squash on that trellis as well, because I know it's probably not going to climb, but to me, it's a perfect place for me to put it. That's out of the way, because plants take so much space, right? I don't want it in the middle of my garden because it takes up too many rows. So then I use the rows in the garden to plant the things like beets and corn and green beans and carrots and, you know, all the above. Whew. I'm sorry how I look. I'm working in the house, and the house I know is a mess, but I'm keeping at it. But today I am going to do some mylar bags with this dehydrated green beans, and then I have dehydrated strawberries, some nice looking strawberries. So, and that's only a half a tray, okay? The other half is going to be in our belly. But I'm learning how many hours it takes. This load, 3.5 trays of green beans, and then a half a tray of strawberries. The timing was 12 hours of freezing and 15 hours of drying. I did have 2 errors while I ran this load. One of them was my error. I did the stupid thing again. I forgot to turn the pump on after I did my flush and refill. And so I corrected that. And then into the next batch, when it went into the drying, it had the famous cable error, not connected properly or something. And I continued that, and then I said, oh, wait a minute. I want to redo it. I want to make sure that it gets a full dry, and that's what I did. I went back and did a 12 and 15. So I know it's a lot more than it should have had, but here's the thing. I know it's done right. It doesn't have any moisture in it, and I got to get it into these bags. So I've got to plug in my sealer. Oh, and then I need all of our oxygen absorbers are in these little bags. To be honest, I don't know if they come that way or if the lady that sold us this unit put all these in there. Anyhow, I think it's the right thing to do. What's really neat is I can reseal these. You know, I'm probably only going to use a few of them. I don't know if I did that right. Yeah, there we go. So, one oxygen absorber per bag. This is a pretty good sized bag. Oh, I missed. Oh, so I'll set that aside. No, I'm not going to wash it off. That kind of ruins an oxygen absorber. Okay, that time I made it. the reason why I didn't play basketball. Okay. Now these are full-length green beans, okay? These green beans were the most tender green beans I've ever raised. And in my video that I did of the garden, I explained that these green beans were the most tender green beans that I've raised, and they're the same seed. Now, I'm just speculating, which means it's my opinion, and you know what they say about opinions, but I don't think I've ever grown green beans on the east side where it only gets a half a day of sun. And there are tomatoes on the east side. So on the west side, there's corn. On the east side, there's tomatoes. And here's these green beans in the middle. So very early sun, it's really not hitting the green beans. It's only in the middle of the day in that hot period through the day. Now, as it gets into the late evening, when it gets into the late evening, it's shaded. Now it's still hot because it's in the 90s, okay? And a few days it's been over 100, but most of the time it's just around 90. And so in that period, I think the green beans are not, if it's really hot and it has open sun all day, I think that the green beans have to go into a survival mode, and it starts hardening the pods, and it starts hardening this string. And that's a survival mode, so it can hold the growth and the moisture and whatever. I don't know. I think it's part of the mechanism to survive and to save those beans so that they can then be dropped and then produce new beans. I think that's the nature of it. Am I right? I don't know. I'd really like your opinion on it. But my thought is that the plants are so tender, you have to be really super careful, because the branches, they'll just fall. They'll just break. They just, you can knock them off real easy. I've never had plants this way. Usually they're tough. Usually they're so tough that, you're pulling on those and pulling those green beans out. And well, now you've got to very carefully pull them off. And even the large ones, of course, these are dehydrated, freeze-dried, I should say. But these were big. These were nice size, and yet you can snap them. And like my son said, Dad, those beans are not fully developed. And I said, but look at the size. I said, we're picking them at a period where the beans are not fully developed, but yet there isn't a string, and everything is extremely tender. Usually it's only the small ones that's tender. Once they get some length on them, that string is there. And the pods are tough. And the beans are fully developed or almost fully developed. And this has been in a month and a half or more, almost 2 months growing out there. Man, they should be pretty mature. Having it in that area where it gets partial sun, I think is what made the difference. Okay, that's my idea, and I'm sticking to it. I've been sealing the Mylar bags of the freeze-dried goodies, and I have been shredding and putting zucchini in the seal meal bags. And of course I've been slicing so I can turn right around and dry squash in the solar dryer and the electric dryer every which way we can. Here's another load of green beans that are coming out in a little over an hour, but that's not all. I've just cut up this squash so that I can slice it up and get it ready for the dryers, and that would be Dehy, dehydration in the solar and electrical. But that's not all. I'm also canning 7 quarts of green beans. That's that 5-gallon bucket of green beans that we had. Plus, I put some in the freezer in vacuum bags, seal meal bags. And this will be done in 14 minutes. Then I can set them up. We're keeping things going. And I hope you are too. It's harvest time, folks. Let's get her done. Well, my first canner of green beans is done. I will be picking more, and I'll probably be canning more. But it's nice to know that the first 5 gallons of green beans is preserved and cooling down. I'm going to cover them up, and I'm going to get to going on my squash. Well, my electric dehydrator outside has finished, and you can see when you're dehydrating, things really shrink up. Now I may have some bigger pieces in this batch, but they're gonna shrink up a lot. And I'm reloading these shelves to go right back outside so I can defrost some more. And when they defrost and they're in that really shrunken state, they fit in these quart bags quite well. So I've got a few more shelves to go, and I'll load that up. Then I got to go out to the solar dehydrator and check it out. See you later.